If you're struggling at your church to put together a sound system for a very small budget, well, we're going to talk today about putting together a sound system under $1,000. Here with Clay Hamer at Compass Church in Colleyville, Texas. Clay, what's your title here?
I'm the production manager at our Mid-Cities campus.
Okay, so if we're talking about $1,000 or less for an audio system, are we talking like, can you put that into a stadium, 500-person seat room? Like, what kind of size room are we talking about?
Talking about probably 50 cap room.
Okay, so small church, a youth room, kids area, so $1,000 or less for a 50-person room. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the just, for the novices not even knowing what goes into a sound system, what are the basics of a sound system?
I would say the basics you need are a mixer, microphones, and speakers. Without that, you really can't do much.
Okay, so if we're talking $1,000 or less, I know that like one wireless mic could be $5,000. Mm-hmm. So how do we do an entire system for under $1,000? Where do you want to start?
So I'd start the mixer. There's a lot of great analog mixers. My personal opinion, the Yamaha MGP, they're black and blue analog mixers. Those are great. You can get plenty of inputs, outputs, anything you need with that. For microphones, honestly, any dynamic 58, any Audix mic, I really like. But it gets a little challenging with the speakers. You obviously need two, and those are going to cost the most. There's some affordable options from Alto Professional, but you can also find used JBL, Mackie.
Okay, so let's go back to the mixer. You said analog. Now, I think a lot of people have just in their mind, analog, like isn't everything digital these days? Are analog mixers still a viable option for live sound?
Yeah, in my opinion, they're honestly the easiest, and especially if we're talking about small church, probably people there don't have a lot of production experience. You want it to be a little more simple, but it's also a good starting point for people to learn how to mix audio.
And I assume for volunteer training, a lot of these rooms of 50 or less, you're probably going to have volunteers running the sound system. Mm-hmm. Is it quicker and easier to learn an analog mixer than it is in the digital world?
What I've learned, everything in audio kind of runs in a line. So if you're looking at an audio mixer, an analog mixer, all the knobs are in a straight line. So you know that the signal starts at the preamp where you plug it in, and it goes down through the EQ, any processing, and then out through the speakers.
So I'm thinking you could potentially step into the digital world if you got maybe a very small XR Behringer. Oh, yeah. You're probably going to have to purchase it used in order to stay under this $1,000 price point. That could be advantaged. Like you can control that with an iPad, right?
I personally have had a little trouble with the iPad. I tend to go either a physical digital console or an analog just to have that ease of use, and you don't have to rely on an iPad, Wi-Fi.
And we even have to think about, if we're talking analog versus digital, an XR is a rack unit. And so then are you going to rack it? Well, racks cost money.
Yep.
Racks can cost easily $200 or $300. That's going to eat into your budget very quickly. But a little analog mixer, you just throw it on the table, plug it in. It's pretty straightforward. All right, so microphones, can we even talk about wireless in this budget, or?
It's tough. It would have to be probably old Sennheiser wireless, or very old Shure. Wireless would be a little tough, but there's a lot of great handheld mics. Can't go wrong with 58. But also too, I mentioned Audix, but also SE Electronics. Their V7 microphone is a very good dynamic mic for $100.
Yeah, you're talking $100. Like SM58s, I think the price just went up for the first time in 40 years to $100 now. Like, still very affordable, and those last forever. Unless I'm trying to think what you can do to break an SM58. Like, maybe you run it over with a semi, but maybe not. Maybe if you drop it from the space station, it might break.
Yeah.
But maybe
That'll do it. That'll do it.
So, wired mics, again, we often think, like, I need wireless. I see it. I've got to have it. But that can eat into your budget really quickly. And honestly, a mic and a long enough cable, you're generally fine. Now, you have to hold it.
Yep.
So if you want a wireless mic, that's going to eat a sizable portion. You're probably talking minimum $200 to $300 for a used wireless that's going to actually work for you. So depending on how many mics you need, if you're just like a single speaker, that's all you have to do, one wireless mic or one wireless. But if you need multiples, you've got to just think wired dynamic mics. You can get used SM58s for $50 generally. So you can get a few of those within your budget still. Okay, so we got an inexpensive mixer. We got one, maybe two inexpensive dynamic mics. Now we're talking about speakers. Now, there are two kinds, passive and active. Can you just explain the difference?
Powered speakers, you have the power supply built in. So all you need is just one cable from the outlet into the speaker, turn it on, plug it in. But those passive speakers, you have to go through an amplifier. Another piece of equipment that costs money, need to rack it somewhere. So it's just an extra cost with that.
Not necessarily many pros and cons. Now, active or powered speakers are easier, quicker setup and teardown because the amp's in there. You just put the speaker where it needs to go, plug it in, you're done. The amp you have to also plug in, run the speaker cables. So it's, have you noticed, like, is there a sizable price difference or is it a little bit more preference?
Preference.
Okay.
If you want to deal with having to set up amps, you can, but it's just so easy having a powered speaker.
Yeah.
And with powered speakers, you can get kind of all-in-one systems. JBL, QSC just released a new all-in-one system that looks really cool.
Yeah.
So, and I would say for this scenario, I would go with one of those.
We really believe this is a great place where you can save money is by buying used speakers. Just the drop in price versus new versus used is really significant on speakers, but if they were well taken care of, the drop in quality is not that much, very minimal. So that's a great way to save money. You can get a great pair of used powered speakers for $500. If you're looking at a whether you're analog or even digital mixer, in the $100 to $300 range, and then depending on your microphones, $100 or $200, and then powered speakers at under $500. I mean, you got a great little system there. Now we do have to connect it, and so XLR cables can be pretty expensive if you want to buy.
They definitely can add up, and you don't want to skimp on those. Depending on the setup and what you go for speakers, mixer, and microphones, I would invest in a snake. Depending on the situation where you're setting up, you may need a long cable run. So instead of having 8 runs from your mixer to whatever source, run a snake, leave it on stage, and you can get shorter cables too.
And if you want to minimize that, you could also put your mixer right side stage, depending on if you're not doing a lot of mixing. Pretty simple there. And you also mentioned a all-in-one system. Like, that is another option too, right? Where the mixer and the amp are built into the speakers.
Those are definitely a good option for the small worship band and speaker.
You've heard a lot of different options here. So we're talking $1,000 or less. You can put together a complete sound system for a room of 50 people if you're not doing too many things. If you're doing a pastor, a speaker, maybe a worship leader with just a couple inputs, and powered speakers, analog mixer, you can go into digital world, but don't overthink it and buy used equipment. You can get what you need. It's still gonna last you many, many, many years if you get it from a great source like churchgear.com. But just don't be overwhelmed, don't be discouraged. You can put together a great system for under $1,000.
Hey, thanks so much for watching that video. We know how difficult it is to keep Sundays running at your church, and we know a lot of it is about the gear. So we want to give you an exclusive 5% additional off anything, even if we're running a sale. Even if we're running a sale, additional 5% off, grab the code in the video description below.